Celtics are back home safe after a long and arduous road trip, and we have probably the ultimate guest joining us to talk all about it, the most qualified guest. That's all coming up now on First to the Floor.
Who is going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives, way upon the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Garnett knocked away.
Hey, welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Whether it's live here on YouTube or later on the Celtics blog podcast feed, thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Wayne Spooney, Jake Eisenberg, both joining us for this one, but we're very, very excited to welcome from NBC Sports Boston, Celtics sideline reporter and recent radio analyst, along with Sean Grande there, Abby Chin. Welcome, Abby. How's it going?
I'm well. How are you all?
Doing well. I imagine, a very long road trip for you guys. I think you were away for, 10 days in total?
12 days.
How does it feel to be back? 12 days. Wow.
It was 12 days from leaving the day before the game and then coming back because the team flew back from the West Coast on Wednesday. So, yes, it was 12 days gone. It was good. It was long. I spent a couple extra days in Phoenix, which was lovely, seeing an old friend, which is always nice. But I came home and I felt like the house was completely different. Like the kids, silverware was in a different place. I had to ask my husband, like, what are the routines again? What are we doing? And so it felt like I was away for a very long time.
The kids look older. That always happens to me when I'm gone for a week. It's like,
they're completely different people. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I felt exhausted just watching the team travel for that long. So I can't imagine what it was like to physically be there. Sticking with the road trip, what were the best moments, or typically from a road trip like that, or on this particular road trip, what are the best moments and the worst moments from a road trip as long as that?
This one was long, so that's hard to compartmentalize or to pick specific moments. It's kind of like the playoffs last year. It was such a blur. Each series had its own identity. But so I would say my favorite game was the Phoenix game when the Celtics just rolled over them. We're up by 40 whatever at one point. Because going into that, it was supposed to be a showdown between the top team in the East and the top team in the West. And Chris Paul was coming back. He'd been waiting to get back for the Celtics. And then after a little bit of a slow start, they just steamrolled them and looked unbeatable through that whole game. So that was a lot of fun. It's always better for me and for what I'm doing when the Celtics are winning because everyone's in a good mood. But you speak to that exhaustion, Ben, and Jaylen Brown, when I talked to him after the win in LA, and I don't know what reserves those guys drew from for that, because that was another highlight of the trip. What he just looked at me and he's like, I'm just exhausted. Like the mental toll that took, let alone physical. And then the fact that they had to end it on a back-to-back, and the second night was a national game against Anthony Davis and LeBron James. It's insane. Yeah. And then they somehow found a way to win that game.
I'm getting tired listening to this.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you bring up that Jaylen quote, because I kind of wanted to ask you about that. It resonated with a homebody like myself. He said, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just ready to get the F out of here. It's been a long trip. Like, when you're traveling with the team, can you kind of feel that as the trip's coming to an end? Like, these guys are ready to get out of here. They're dead. Or do you not really see that? I mean, do you perceive that from the team?
I'm not sure. I don't necessarily feel it. And that is something that is specific to this group, because they do have this no excuse mentality. All of these guys, and it even happened in LA, a lot of them go and lift weights after the game. And so from Al Horford to, Jayson Tatum is in there all the time. Rob Williams is typically in there. And they did that even after LA. So they do prepare for this. I was a little surprised to hear Jaylen say, I am so exhausted. Yeah. But, and I'll tell you that, yes, for them, it is so much more than it is for me, because I am lucky that I do get to travel with the team. So, it's on charter planes. We take a bus. You get on the plane. You take a bus from the plane to the hotel to the arena, back to the hotel, and then back onto a plane. So you don't have to think. I book myself commercial flights in and out because I like to leave on the last flight in, whereas the team typically leaves around 2:00 in the afternoon. And I constantly, every time I get off the plane, I'm like, am I in the right spot? Now what do I do? Like, how do I have to go? Your luggage is just like delivered to you when you get there. I'm like, what do I? And so I get lost from time to time. So for me, it's not so bad. The challenges are that you get in late at night. We typically fly the night of the game. So the crazy one, and we rarely do this, but we flew from Toronto to Phoenix overnight. So we left Toronto at about midnight, which is good getting out considering customs and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then we got into Phoenix at 3 a.m. Phoenix time, but 5 a.m. East Coast time. And then we had to go through customs there and then get your bags and all of that. And then to like get in your room and get settled, and you've just been awake, you're traveling, right? So then it takes like a couple hours, maybe an hour or so, depending on who you are, to get settled in. So then you're not going to sleep until, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So those are the days I think that kind of add up on the body and like trying to get your sleep schedule back to where it is. Mm-hmm. But I would say, relatively speaking, because there was so much time between games, the travel for this one wasn't as bad. But the mental toll that it took, and I think that's really what you saw in the Golden State game and the Clippers game and that loss. Like, just and it's what we saw and what the young guys realize that is required to make a championship run, is that you have to have that mental focus every night. And so I think you heard Jaylen talk about it. There's no question. They put a little too much stock into that Golden State game and the finals rematch and just wanting to go out there and play so well. And then when it didn't start off good, things just started to snowball. And then after that, to have that like mentally toll on you and have to go out and play the Clippers, and you're just like, again, and different team.
Kawhi's back, come on.
Right. Kawhi's back, come on, more stars. Paul George. Jason's like, I'm beyond this already. What am I like? I don't want to deal with this. So
I know, yeah.
I know I say no excuses, but I don't necessarily blame them. I mean, road trips are long. It is an arduous task, especially at this point in the season where you're still just kind of chugging and churning and trying to find yourselves. And so I do think 4-2 is a really good result of that road trip.
Yeah, these guys are humans, right? Yeah. And like there's so much travel. I think the mental aspect of the travel is so underrated. I mean, me and Ben, when we hung out on Sunday, we were trading photos of Jaylen's physique, like the physical conditioning of these
Couple
guys.
Of guys hanging out.
Yeah, just dudes talking about dimensions. That's what we do. It was kind of not super, like it was impressive, but not super surprising to me that they were kind of able to outlast the Lakers. Like they shouldn't have been able to. The Lakers went on a back-to-back. The Celtics were just on that. I mean, you just outlined how ridiculous of a schedule the Celtics had to go through. You mentioned the Warriors game and how Jaylen talked about being kind of too up for it. Do you kind of get a sense of the team's mentality before a game, whether it's good or bad, before they put up a stinker, before they have an incredible game like a game against the Mavs? These guys are such creatures of habit, but you're able to like get a sense of like different tensenesses.
I wish I might like start gambling or something. I'm probably not allowed, but
just send them to us, please.
I'm not allowed. I don't do that, for the record. But I would be if I could understand their moves. It is. We were not allowed in the locker rooms for the last 2 seasons, and so now being back, it is different. I will say that there are a lot of places for guys to hide. So we don't see everyone all the time. But I don't. And it is something when I do talk to the coaches pregame, I try to ask, like, what's the vibe? What is your message while this is happening? What are you kind of getting from your guys? And I will always remember last season, there was one of the early games, probably in December and November, but Ime Udoka afterwards told us, he was like, we were terrible in shoot around. I told these guys, if you played like this SHIT in the game, we're going to lose. And then they played like SHIT. And so are we allowed to curse on this thing? I don't know. And then he came to the post-game press conference, was like, I told them, they did it anyway. And so he's like, I saw this coming. So unfortunately we cannot, I don't feel like I can get a good pulse. I feel like, and like the Golden State one, I wouldn't say that I necessarily felt that there was anxiety within the room, But all of the talk leading up to it and everything that they were saying leading up to it and everything that Jayson and Jaylen specifically have been saying all the way through from media day, just how awful their summers were, how much pain they were in after losing emotionally, after losing the finals, the way they did on the parquet. And so I'm not surprised that they put so much into that game. And I also won't be surprised if when Golden State comes here, it'll be a completely different story. And if they do have a rematch in the finals, it'll be a completely different story. And I do think, and it's something, speaking of the road trip, that became very clear to the Celtics. And it's one thing to say it, but it's a different thing to live it. And that is that you now have a target on your back and you're going to get every team's best shot. And so to do that for 82 games is a lot, and it's hard, and it's a lot to ask from people and as even elite athletes. And so I think that we are going to see that kind of rear its ugly head throughout the season.
Go ahead, Jake.
That was a long way of saying, no, I don't. I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish they had it.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
some games being like, I think this is it. And then they lose. And some games I'm like, oh gosh, they seem tense in there. And then they come out and kill it. So
Yeah, well, I think, Steph Curry talks about when he does his warm-up, and like some games he won't miss a single shot in warm-up, and he'll have some of his worst games, and vice versa.
It's like he used all his buckets in the warm-up.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's probably just the same in our lives, right? Sometimes you think you're going to have a great day, and sometimes you can't pull it together, and the other times you're able to just to get it together. But
sometimes I try to gauge it from Marcus Smart's his last shot before warm-ups. If that goes in eventually, I feel good. But even that.
I think using Marcus Smart as a general, vibes indicator is probably a good move. So I like that theory.
Although he has a lot of swag, he will never tell you that he doesn't feel well before a game.
Yeah, so. He's just vomiting, in the middle of games and coming back and, being the reason they're able to pull off comebacks. No big deal.
No big deal. Or he misses the first 5 and then he hits the one at the buzzer before the end of the quarter, and then
from 32
in overtime.
He can't remember a single shot that he's missed. I'm convinced. No way.
I wish I lived that way. I wish I could
I know.
Like possession to possession and completely forget about every mistake that I just made. It's incredible.
I love it.
So you got to hit some pretty cool cities, pretty cool arenas on this road trip. What is your favorite city to travel to, NBA city? And what's your favorite arena to be in and be a part of the game in?
So I think this is a really hard question because of all 29 other places, a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, depends on the hotel at this point.
I feel that.
Perfectly valid.
We stay at the same places. So earlier in my career, I really tried to make it a point to get out and like see all the sites. And like I said, I don't have a car there. So it's really anything that you can walk to. So this is my 10th season and I really have explored all of the areas around the hotel, especially then post-pandemic. Now it's just about like what the hotel is like, what restaurants are within walking distance. And I think one of my favorites is New York, obviously,
right?
Because we get to stay kind of down by the World Trade Center, and it's just a beautiful area, and it always just feels cool to be in New York.
Yeah.
And then MSG obviously just has this aura about it. And it's the fun thing about MSG is they have this huge loading dock that you have to, the bus parks at the bottom and you have to walk up it. And it's just like, it's the only arena that's like that. And it just feels like you're walking up into what's going to be an epic battle, So it's like you're just preparing for battle, walking up that stage, up to the stage. So I really enjoy that one. The Chase Center where we just were for the Warriors is awesome, and it gets loud and it gets rowdy and it's a lot of fun.
I don't like the Chase Center.
You don't?
No, just emotionally.
Bad
yeah, but
I'm glad you're off. Yeah.
I agree. Maybe they should bring some sage next time.
There we go. Yeah.
I like this.
Somebody call Kyrie.
Yeah.
We might not have to worry about it after Steph Curry and the shoulder thing that came out today. So fingers crossed. And as much as you like this Chase Center, hopefully that's enough of the Celtics in Chase Center this year.
The crowd is good. And the crowd's really good in Milwaukee too. They get loud. The playoff series that we've had in Milwaukee have been intense and you can feel it. I mean, there is nothing like TD Garden in the playoffs, but Milwaukee gets up for those games.
I was going to ask, like the narrative about the TD Garden fans being like by far the most emotive league wide. Obviously, we're all a little biased, but do you think that's factually correct?
So I do, but like you said, we are emotionally biased. But I have never felt anything like I feel in a Game 7 when the Celtics are rolling, and it is like the place is just hanging on every single shot, and it's from the jump. It's from, it's not waiting to see for the game to get in, and even just like a Peyton Pritchard moment, and when he takes the floor, and everyone is so excited for him.
Yes, game 2 against the Nets when he went off in the fourth quarter like that. I was actually in Brooklyn for that one when Peyton Pritchard had that fourth quarter against Brooklyn. Like, there's something special about a bench guy coming off and being the reason that you get a win, and to do it like in a playoff game. And that's the thing about Celtics fans. Like, we get it. Like, they're really smart. Yeah.
And Celtics Nation travels. I don't know if you guys could hear it on the road, but there were huge contingents in every single stop. In Phoenix, there was legit MVP chants for Jayson Tatum when he stepped to the free throw line, and like in the first quarter. And so they tried to stamp that out in Golden State. They did a better job there, and then they did a better job in LA for the Lakers specifically. But I mean, there were so many Celtics fans everywhere we went.
Yeah, I live about 3 hours from DC now, and I went to the Wizards Celtics game when Tatum had the 50, and it was like 60% Celtics fans in DC. I mean, it was not even close.
Especially in blowouts too, because then the home team tend to leave. And then it's like, Celtics Nation takes over.
Yep.
So good.
The jerseys are starting to pop up here in Australia as well for a long time. A lot of Ben Simmons, Philadelphia 76ers jerseys, a lot of Patty Mills. Now we're starting to see Tatum's. My 2-year-old daughter, she has her own Jayson Tatum jersey. She proudly wears that to daycare on every day that I have the chance to dress her.
Awesome.
So it's really starting to bubble up here in Australia as well. Abby, like we mentioned, you kind of get to be around the team quite a bit in your role and see the personality of these guys and tons of other guys who have played for the Celtics as well in the past. Who is one player who I suppose either played for the Celtics once upon a time or is otherwise floating around the league that might be the perfect fit for this particular group, personality-wise or even player fit-wise?
But I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but you did give me a little peek at these questions. So this one I had to think about. I thought really hard about. And so I have come up with Kelly Olynyk.
Okay.
Yes,
please. Absolutely.
I think that the Celtics could use some size. Obviously, they love he plays the space game. I think he could pick up his pace always. And he's a super smart, high basketball IQ, could work in this defense, the high switching defense. But he would also, I think, really fit in the locker room. One of the stories I love to tell about Kelly but it's also his competitive nature, is we were on the plane. Kelly loves burritos and sushi. Those were like his favorite foods. And so he was like, once a teammate dared him, like, how many bites do you think it'll take you to eat that burrito? And he's like, I think I can do it in 3. And they're like, no way. Absolutely not. No freaking way. And just like money on the table, Kelly freaking did it. Just like these 3 humongous bites of a burrito. And it was disgusting. But and so I think that he's funny. He's got a good spirit about him, obviously a team player, and like could take the ribbing that there's a lot of junk talked now with the addition of Blake Griffin in the locker room, and I think Kelly could take that and would enjoy it.
The vibes, man.
Vibes
Well, there's a reason Danny Ainge got Tom Brady and Kelly Olynyk together. He understands the influence.
Right?
That's
the reason you bring Kelly Olynyk with Kevin Durant. I forgot about that in the hamstring.
He would be such a good fit on the team as well. Like, can stretch it out.
And a great passer. Like, would be great.
Yeah, and then now you've got Kelly doing fake handoffs. Because Grant's starting to pick that up. If the master of the fake handoff, Kelly O, could come in and take Grant under his wing with the fake handoff, I think that would be perfect. So Jayson Tatum, he's having like a pretty good year.
I guess.
And not bad. Is there anything like that you noticed different about him coming in? I think, for me, seeing like I watch every post-game interview. I think that he's become like kind of a Brad Stevens clone, as far as like not too high, not too low goes. But is there anything kind of different that you've seen about his approach this year?
I don't know about his approach. So I did. After the finals, I was like everyone else. I wanted him to come back angry and hungry. And when you saw him throughout the summer, he seemed very even keeled and just kind of, because he was everywhere, right? He was in LA working out with KD. He went to Seattle to play in that Pro-Am game for Jamal Crawford and was doing a bunch of photo shoots for Ruffles and all of that. And he seemed like the regular Jayson. But the moment he came in a media day and was so emotional about how tough this summer was and how much he doesn't care about anything else but winning. The whole goal is to get back there. And I think that has shown in the way that he's played. And I think that it was so important for both he and Jaylen to make it to that level, to the championships, to the finals, and then also play a team like the Warriors who play team basketball, who share the ball and play for one another, for them to see that breeds success, that breeds winning, that it just reinforced every lesson that they learned on the way there. And so he has played so much more unselfishly. He's trusting his teammates, understands that when you give the ball up, it's going to come back to you. And so that is different. I will say, because I have, and I don't know if this question is coming up later, but I have covered Jayson and Jaylen from the moment they came into the league. And I feel like Jayson in particular in his interactions with the media has grown exponentially just over the last 2 years. And I don't know if it was since the bubble, but he has just been phenomenal with all of us, and also being able to express what he is feeling and how he approaches the game, but also how he sees it and how he is dealing with it night to night, but also dealing with his teammates. And so it's been really fun to watch. It's been amazing. And like, obviously, whenever I retire someday, that's what I will remember is the growth of those two guys, and Marcus Smart as well. I came in, my first year was Brad Stevens' first year. So that was my first season. So
How good.
Which was a crazy season, right? 25 wins. We had Jordan Crawford. I was trying
Player
to.
of the week.
Yeah.
The Stees was in there. Gerald Wallace. Chris Humphreys. Like, that was such a weird group. And it was such an interesting locker room to be in. So, yes, to see their development has just been incredible. And Jayson Tatum, as far as his approach, he's approaching it like an MVP. He takes care of his body, is meticulous about every single thing that he's doing, and everything is focused on the sole goal of winning an NBA championship.
Man, love it. Fills my heart with joy. Yeah, hearing him update the diet brought me a lot of joy. As my fiance is a naturopath, and she's a bit forced me to eat vegetables over the past few years. It has a positive impact when you switch from like Taco Bell to vegetables, and to see like the Snapchats from Tatum, like he played the Grizzlies once, and he had a Snapchat of like very saucy wings, and the next day he was out, and I'm like, I reckon he got food poisoning from the wings the night before. So yeah, exactly, the full commitment to winning across the board is
that is a
so
full
good.
team mentality change, and that is something that has changed a lot over my time too. It used to, and this is disappointing for me. I understand why it's happening. I don't like it. Like, we used to, when we would go to a city, on the plane afterwards, there would be food from that city. So if we were in Chicago, there would be individual deep dish pizzas on the plane.
Nice.
And if we were in California, like, there's that infamous story about Doc Rivers. They were driving, I think, up north to San Francisco or something, and they pulled over to the In-N-Out, and it took like 3 hours to get their order from In-N-Out. And so, and there was one, since I've been here, the bus or the plane broke down or something, and we ended up going to Bojangles, like, on the way to the airport. And that doesn't happen anymore. Like, the nutritionist has taken over. They have been empowered. The guys have very specific meals laid out. I mean, Jaylen Brown, you talk about a naturopath.
Yeah.
Jaylen is purely plant-based at this point. And so, to the point where I asked him, because my son has severe food allergies, I was like, what butter do you use? And he's like, I don't know. My chef goes to the grocery store.
Of course.
I was like, okay. A different lifestyle.
Not helpful, Jaylen.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But like, so you're right. Nutrition is a focus, and that is a team-wide initiative.
Yeah. I mean, that is, I did not know that Bojangles story. That's absolutely hilarious.
So
but shifting gears just a little bit, you got the opportunity to be extremely close to some of the most famous people in the world. Literal royalty came to Boston.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What's it like to be so close to Luke Cornett? Seriously though, what was
well done?
What was that experience like to have the Royals into Boston? I mean, it was a cool moment. My wife knew about it. She shared me a Celtics article. That's how I know it was a big deal. You seemed very excited on the broadcast, which was great. So how was that experience?
Amazing. Just to give a little background. So my dad is Chinese. He was born in Hong Kong, though. So he immigrated to Jamaica, which is where he grew up. And then he went to a British boarding school. So he grew up like in that British mindset. He loves everything British. Like and they filmed the first James Bond in Jamaica while he was there. And so he loves James Bond. He loves Jaguars. Like he just loves it all. So it has been in my consciousness my whole life. Yeah. And so, so I was pretty hyped. I found out about it a few days before and I got the email and it was embargoed and I was just like, and couldn't believe it was going to happen.
It's happening.
Afraid something was going to happen and that it wouldn't happen. I was very excited. The team was not as excited. Like the players, Joe Mazzulla, obviously, clearly not that excited. And, I was I didn't have to temper my excitement. I was like, oh, okay, you're not as excited as I am. Keep my cool. But it was a logistical nightmare for everyone involved. They told me, they were like, it was worse than a finals game. It was just like the security checkpoints and everything that went into that. And then their schedule and what was planned, everything for them is planned down to the minute. So they were supposed to leave after the third quarter, but it was a close game. Prince William loves basketball. And so they decided to stay. And then so everyone around is just like, they're staying? What do we do? What do we do now?
Where do they sit?
They stayed there. But they're like, do we go? Are we is it over? Do we? So, but everyone I spoke to said they couldn't have been more nice. I didn't get to talk to them or meet them. There was, there were barriers. They gave out pins. If you had a pin, you could be within the area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sounded very official. So no, I didn't get to meet them, but I was very excited. And, we don't get that many celebrities at Celtics games, but I feel like now we have a trump card. The prince and princess have not been to America, and who knows how long. This was their first and only NBA game. So.
My favorite moment from the game was that was the game. Like Tatum had 49, he was just going off, and there's just this video of the prince just clapping, going, "He's very good." I love the idea. It's like your first NBA game. He's going to go back and be like, "Wow, that Jayson Tatum guy just must be the best player in the world because he was just killing everybody." So good.
But also, Wayne, Luke Cornett. Absolutely. NBA royalty on this Celtics team. He is hilarious. He's like one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. He's really funny. On media day, I learned a new word, phlegmatic. Yeah, and he's got all the celebrations.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, the Stromile Swift. Yeah.
So good.
In Phoenix. So, yes, I would put, William and Kate right here and then Luke
right behind him.
Right in there. Yeah.
I think that's fair. That's a fair ranking. I mean, we're probably burying the lead just a little bit, but right before we started recording, we got the tweets from Woj and Shams that Time Lord Robert Williams III is making his debut tomorrow against the Orlando Magic, who are on a 4-game winning streak, quietly, by the way. But man, the Time Lord's back. How good. Because, I mean, they really teased us in that practice between the Phoenix and the Warriors game.
I could not believe when the injury report came out hours later that he was just out.
I know.
What?
Give us a questionable, please.
Head games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just out. I'm glad they did that because there would have been so much speculation up until that point. And I asked Joe about it yesterday. I'm like, what were you guys doing? And he's like, you guys took that way out of context. No one was trying to mess with you. Like,
they don't understand how excited we are, clearly. But yeah, I don't know, how are you feeling about Rob coming back? Were they being extra cautious, tentative? Do you think he's ready to roll? That kind of stuff?
I do think he's ready to roll. I don't think they would roll him out there if he wasn't. Yeah. Friday marks 12 weeks, I think exactly, from the surgery on September 23rd. And so the initial timeline that we received was basketball activities between 8 and 12 weeks. And he surpassed that. So he's ready. He has said over and over again there have been no setbacks, which is, I think, really important for him and his recovery from that. And I also think it's important that he got as much time as he needed, considering everything that went on through the playoffs and how much he played through. And so you want to make sure that that knee is as healthy as it's going to possibly be before he heads into this arduous season grind again. And so I do think that they would be super conservative with him. And so I don't think there is any chance that he is not ready to go and ready to roll.
I'm so excited.
I know.
I can't believe he's back.
How excited is Forsberg?
I was going to say.
Is he okay?
Chris, yeah, I talked to Chris earlier today, and he's like, I'm not going to shoot around unless Rob's playing.
Nice.
He's like,
Nice
there's no
standards.
reason. They don't. There's no purpose. So Chris will be a shoot around tomorrow morning.
Yep. All right.
And yeah, I'm excited to see what Rob brings. I think the trip also showed, because the Celtics had to play those last it was 4 games starting with Phoenix without Al Horford, and just how important he is as the anchor of that defense, and also a guy who, when those runs start happening, things start snowballing and getting out of hand, he's someone who can pull everyone back in and help them to maintain their poise. And so I think it'll be huge to have Al back. And then we saw just how big of an X factor Rob is in the playoffs between the games where he played and he didn't play. And so I think it's going to be huge. I mean, we had Luke Cornett, who I love.
Well,
Oh,
we've
no.
lost Abby. Oh, no.
We lost Abby. Oh, no.
It's a live stream. Improvise. Oh, we've lost Jake as well.
There
What is
goes
going on? Is it a worldwide internet outage?
Apparently.
Spoonie. I mean,
I'm excited for Rob to come back. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh, he's going to hurt the offense, blah, 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 blah. Rob Williams is an incredible offense. Oh, my.
I don't know what
Rob
happened. Just
That's
dropped
all
out.
right.
That was my
I-
big rock moment. Yeah.
that happens.
I dropped
All right,
out
Rob's
too.
back and I'm out.
Yeah, everybody's
Sorry.
going.
I don't know. My
Yeah.
internet must have just dropped out.
Yeah, we're
That
back.
doesn't happen in Australia?
Oh, I dropped out just now as well,
Okay.
and before the show started for some reason. So our internet's ranked like 59th in the world. It's actually atrocious, but that's a story for another day.
All right. Anyway,
Indonesia has better internet than us. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Spoons.
anyway, shifting gears, Abby, previously when you were on the show, we were the Celtics Reddit podcast. And with you coming on, we went back to our roots. I posted on Reddit and said, what would you people like to ask Abby Chin? And if you want to feel good about yourself, go check out that thread, because there was a lot of love for what you do.
Thank you.
And one guy, Formal Substance 520, said his daughter didn't care about the Celtics until she saw you and said, there's a girl that plays for the Celtics and now she's a big fan. So I thought that was adorable.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
That is awesome.
so we grabbed a few questions from the Redditors about, that they wanted to ask you. And the first one is from user Annoying Celtics Fan. And he says, do you have a fandom or friendship with fellow alum Derek White? Because you both went to Colorado. Do you guys ever talk it up about UC Boulder? Is that burrito place still around? Or
We do. Oh, now
Nice.
that Pete's, right? The burrito place?
I went to UMass. I don't know.
I don't know. So I wouldn't say we're like friends, but I
Right.
definitely made sure he knew the moment he arrived that I also went to Colorado. And then the Celtics have a new PR person. Her name is Heather, and she also went to see you. And
Nice.
so we have had discussions. He was the first person I went to when I heard that Deion Sanders was coming. He was fired up about it, so it made me feel better. But Derek, when he arrived midway through last season, it was such a crazy time for him. Number one, I mean, playing with the Spurs your entire life, and then to have Pop come to your room and tell you that they traded you to Boston mid-season, I think is pretty shocking in itself. And then he and his wife were just about to have their first baby. And so to have to move her across the country. But that's really where I was like, if you need help, I'm, I can happy to talk you through some stuff. And he didn't ask for my help, but that was really where I volunteered my information about like navigating the Boston medical scene. So I'm not sure if he appreciated that, but that was my main message when he first arrived.
That's amazing. Speaking of volunteering information, we're going to ask you to volunteer some more information, Abby. Reddit user Gay for Jamie wants to know, are there any nicknames for for guys on the Celtics that we don't hear regularly? Any unofficial nicknames?
Not that I know of. I mean, like everyone calls Al OG, right? Because he's old. And then
He's our age, by the way.
the Green Cornet, I think, is one that people were trying to get started. And then Blake said it to me in a post-game interview. And I was like, are we doing that? And he was like, yeah, that's been done. So I think they do use a lot of nicknames amongst each other, but I don't know if like how many stick. I think stuff just gets thrown out there, I mean, JT does go by, like, people call him Big Deuce for real. He has it tattooed on his hands.
So cool.
Right.
And
Is it?
things like that.
I think it's awesome.
Smart.
Spanish Game Hen is
Yeah,
one that
cool.
just kind of slipped out there. That seemed like maybe it wasn't meant to see the light of day, but it was really picked up and embraced by the Twitterverse. So that was really cool to see. We've got another question from Total Mayo, who asks, what does Abby see or hear about this team that we might not know? Doesn't have to be nefarious, but rather something fun or interesting. And then we'll combine that with another question from Ray Louis 34, who asks, what's the best Celtics story of a player that you can share with us? Now, you may have already done that with the Kelly Olynyk burrito story, which was
No, that
amazing.
was pretty good. Something that you may not know. I don't know. I would say I think that this group gets along better than almost any group I've been a part of. And I think a huge part of that is Marcus and Jaylen and Jayson last season coming to a head at the beginning and working through all of that, and now understanding that they're all on the same page and working towards the same goal. And so I think that allows you to work through other things. But I also think that Grant and Blake Griffin have been a huge addition to the locker room, and that, like, Jaylen and Jayson are pretty reserved guys naturally. It's not in them to be boisterous and command a locker room and be, and not that they're not going to hold guys accountable, but yell at guys, just in the middle of nowhere. And so Grant and Blake, Grant initially, I think everyone last season was just like, where is this guy coming from? He's organizing team dinners. Like, who does he think he is? He's not even playing. He's not even in the rotation. And then you saw the leap that he made last season, but then also because of that work and because he is a constant presence, the guys do attach to him, and he lightens it. He lightens the mood and makes it so that it's not so tense and quiet, and he just is not afraid to mess with people. And then Blake Griffin has come in and added to that. And so it's a really good, like I said, the vibes are very good right now. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's feeling good. I know Mike Gorman tells a story all the time about how you have 15 guys and everyone takes 15 cabs away from the arena afterwards. And this group, while they're not like all going to Cancun together, they do enjoy each other's company. And you can feel that. It does feel different.
Yeah, I'm convinced Brad is not only a Kaizen warrior, but a vibes master by bringing in Blake and Brogdon. Like, I think he's got a good feel for the kind of guys that he bring in.
Absolutely. And Danny too. I mean, Danny was really good about getting the like competitive guys, the guys who like just had heart and loved the game of basketball so much, like the Terry Roziers and I mean, even Isaiah Thomas, and just the guys who led basketball. Danny was really good at that. And then, yes, I think Brad is really good at sensing the basketball IQ, but also like, if you're not with it and if you don't want to play for the team, we don't need you. Like, if you're not going to help us, you're hurting us, and we'll move on.
I love it. We kind of covered it, but from user Mr. Blonde 1003 was just kind of asking about the development of the Jays. So I mean, I guess there's we can never do too much on, I guess, the Jays relationship, but quickly, I guess, like just Jay love.
What I think is crazy is because I have been there every day, so it is like with your kids, you don't notice the growth.
Yeah.
And so I look back at pictures of Jayson Tatum, and I know we always used to make the joke, like, he's only 19. But you look back at those pictures, and he looks like he's 19. Like, now when he's talking, he has his full beard. I'm like, wow, you can actually grow facial hair. That's exciting for you. So don't tell me.
Still waiting on that.
Yeah, me too.
They won't see this, don't worry.
But so that's one thing, but then also just their development. And I remember in Jayson Tatum's rookie season, him telling me that he believes he can be an MVP in this league. And he understands that that is a goal that he's working towards. And then to now this season where he's not only in the conversation, he's the leader, and to see all of the work and all of the development that has gone into that, because he came in so talented. I mean, that guy could go get a bucket as a rookie in a league full of men. And then now to see him using all of that experience as well that they've had has been really cool, I think, and something that you may not, when guys come into this league, may not understand everything that goes into getting someone to that point. And it's amazing to see him there. And then to think that he still has so much room to grow. He's technically not even in his prime yet. Yeah, and so that's a really, really scary thought. And then
first of the floor bingo, Spoonie's cat.
Get over under 40 and a half. Yeah.
Got it. And then for Jaylen as well, I recently, I don't remember, maybe it was during the finals, went back and looked at the interview that I did with Jaylen at the draft. And he talked about just that he was a confident guy to begin with. But then to see him and the way he was speaking through that playoff series, and I think that it wasn't a fake it till you make it. I do believe he was confident, but to see him at that point in his career and to understand everything that he had gone through and everything that it took to actually have this confidence and this aura and this invincibility. And he has that, he's earned it. And this season, he's taken that to another level where I went to him, I think it was early on when we were in Miami, and it was that first Eastern Conference Finals rematch. And I was like, so, you've been really efficient. You've been, you bring it every game, consistent. I'm like, what is that approach? Where is that coming from? And he's like, Abby, that's who I am. I've been doing this my entire career. And so he just, I feel like, has taken it to another level. So that's been really cool to see as well.
Yeah. And we will get to see that over the next 6 games at home in Boston. Yes. Finally, a nice long home stand. So our upcoming schedule is a double up with Orlando for some reason. And then
we did that with Miami too. Miami was here for 6 days.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That's crazy.
Especially if they were probably freezing. And then the return of Aaron Nesmith. No one is more excited for that.
I'm excited to see this Pacers team for the first time.
Me too. Yeah, they're fun. They play fast. Yeah. Halliburton's awesome. And then Brogdon. The T-Wolves, and then the Bucks. What game, Abby, probably other than the Bucks game, are you? Yeah, obviously it's that one, Christmas Day. Are you most excited for?
I am excited to see Indiana, but I also I really like the Orlando team and just the talent, the young talent that they have that is just, they're just so young and trying to figure it all out. But Paolo Banchero, I was blown away when we saw him in Orlando. What he is able to do at his age as a rookie, finishing through contact. I mean, going and getting a bucket, getting to his spots no matter what. It was incredible to see. And then knowing that he is really good friends with Jayson Tatum, has leaned on Jayson through the draft process, through his time at Duke, and those two have gotten pretty close. And so that's a scary thought to me that Paolo at this level, what he's doing, and then if he can develop on defense, that is going to be that guy is going to be a problem.
Oh yeah. He already is a problem. I can't believe he's giving everybody 20 a game. And quietly, they beat the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George. They beat the Raptors twice, I think. Yeah, beat the Raptors twice, and then shellacked the Hawks last night, which actually I don't think that's too hard to do at the moment with the Hawks.
Not at this point.
But they're coming in hot. So the Celtics need to be, up for this. But wow, man, the fact that Robert,
we'll have to see. I know it's Orlando, but it's that first game off of a long road trip. It's tough.
And Orlando always gives us trouble.
Yes, I agree.
Even that first game when we played them earlier in the season, what was it, 124 to 120 or something like that? It was kind of wire to wire. I'm sure Terrence Ross, who hasn't done anything since that game, is going to be back to haunt us. So gotta be ready.
It's a long homestand. This season, the schedule is weird.
Yeah.
it's very strange to be away for that long, home for that long, and then we do it all again in March too. There's another long trip in March.
That's right, yeah. And a pretty brutal, or quick, I should say, road stretch in January as well, at least as far as the tier of teams that we're playing. Look, Abby, we're gonna wrap up here with a very, on my part, hastily prepared segment called "How well do you know your colleagues?" As in, how well do you know your lovely colleagues there at NBC Sports Boston? So 5 very hard.
I'm a little nervous. I was not warned about this. You may have, but I didn't read that far in the email. So.
Okay, there you go. Oh, you should have scrolled to the bottom. So we've got 5 very hard-hitting questions about your, like I said, lovely colleagues there at NBC Sports Boston. We're going to start with question 1. In 2014, Brian Scalabrine announced his quote-unquote homecoming, heading back to Boston to become a Comcast Sportsnet announcer. How did Scal make this announcement?
Well, I remember he mimicked the cover of the SI. No?
That is correct. Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes. But
believe
he did not have his interview. Yeah.
There we go. The interview is well worth a read. I've got a little excerpt here. So he says in the article, "I always believed that I'd return to Boston and finish my career there. I just didn't know when. After the season, I went to see 22 Jump Street. Then I saw they came together with Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. It was delightful. But I have 2 girls and 1 boy. We have a lovely family. I started thinking about what it would be like to raise my family in Boston. Well, not like downtown, more like Metro West, or at least 20 minutes outside the city. I looked at other teams, but I wasn't going to leave Oakland for anywhere except Boston, or maybe Chicago, or maybe Brooklyn, or possibly Los Angeles to go back with Doc. The more time that passed, the more it felt right. This is what makes me happy." Did we just have a little special guest make an appearance?
Yeah, we have.
We did, yeah.
I missed it.
I'm sorry. Silas would like to be a part of it. And he is as persistent as Cal is when it comes to some things.
Hi, Silas.
Hey,
buddy.
Silas. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, and he's got to stop me. Okay, hold on. I'm going to go run him upstairs. I'll be right back.
All right.
Yeah, no worries.
Perfect.
Did you guys catch that just as we pause for time here? Did you guys catch it was a little while ago now, the Brian Scalabrine article that I just mentioned?
That does not ring a bell to me. At
I
all.
remember, honestly, I thought the "I'm coming home" thing was like a Photoshop someone on Twitter did. I didn't realize like he put it out.
That's. It's like
Oh, yeah.
Scala,
He
he
did. I
was
remember
joking,
that. Oh, yeah.
but he was also like,
Kind of
"I'm
serious.
coming home." Yeah.
All right, we got to rush through the rest of these questions because clearly we've got lives to get back to, myself included. It's now 10 a.m. here. I actually have to go to work, so let's rush through these.
Me too.
Question 2: The
Ooh, I like
Sultan
that.
of Stat, Dick Leip, in addition to his role with the Celtics broadcast, has held a full-time position at which university since 1977?
I know this one. Bentley.
Nice.
You got it. You're all over
Nice.
it.
You're
I
kidding.
had no idea.
Nick
I
Life
thought
is
these-
amazing, though. The Sultan of Stat. I'm going to start using that on Twitter. He's the best.
How good.
Question 3: Chris Forsberg has his own IMDb page.
I didn't know
Name
that.
one of the 3 items on his IMDb page.
Can I say these are impossible to get?
Ben
by
is
the
a
way, so
trivia
do not feel
wall.
bad.
It's not like PTI. It's nothing from when he was at ESPN.
Well, no, you're on the right track actually.
I will say, and we love Chris Forsberg, most people do, not necessarily deserving of an IMDb page, these particular
And it's not, is it a 30 for 30 something?
I'm going to bring it up because we're never going to get this.
No.
And I'll hide the answer on screen there as well.
Wingo. Okay.
GT Academy USA, Golic and Wingo, Mike and Mike. I think I've heard
So
of
those
Mike
were
and Mike.
ESPN's. What's the GT Academy?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
2012. Okay.
I'm in studio tomorrow. I'll ask him.
Yes.
How did you tell on that
Please
one?
do.
Amazing. All right, let me
That's
just
amazing.
clear my little picture here. All right,
2012.
question 4. Trainee Casey was originally hired by NBC Sports in 2014 to cover which Winter Olympic sport?
Is it different from curling, what she covers now?
You got it. It's curling.
Nailed it.
Nailed
On
Yeah.
fire.
Go
Yeah.
to curling. Yes. Even now.
Nice.
So well done.
Question 5. Originally, the broadcast team of Mike and Tommy shared which area alongside legendary radio voice Johnny Most at the old Boston Garden?
That is one of my greatest regrets, that I never met Red Auerbach and I never went to a game at the old Garden. So But they were always courtside, right? Or was there the overhang that they had to sit on?
Yeah, I'm going to say that's correct. What do you think, Spoonie?
Yeah, definitely high above courtside.
Yeah,
is what they
yeah,
used to call
it
it.
was
Yeah,
like-
yeah, you got it.
Yes.
Yeah. You can see here he's got like a top-down kind of
Yeah.
view there. So they were apparently right next to Johnny Mercer. So I think you finished 4 out of 5 there. So clearly
That's so
you're
impressive.
extremely astute when it comes to your fellow colleagues there at NBC Sports Boston. Thank you for entertaining us or humoring us, I should say, by doing that trivia. Well, Abby Chin, look, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You're as astute with your takes as you are generous with your time. Thanks again for coming on, and here's to an awesome rest of the season.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun. I'm happy to do it anytime, although, Ben, the emailing is difficult, transcontinental. So I agree.
Absolutely. We'll have to find a
I
better
feel
way.
that.
Just give me a
Trust me.
time. I'll see what I can do.
No worries. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thanks to Jake Eisenberg and Wayne Spoonie. Thanks again to Abby Chin, and we'll be back next week.